So anyway, I tell him, I hardly know her.
Oh, those wacky stories that are totally real.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, chat.
Hi, chat.
Welcome back to Hayseed Knight. Maxi has come out with a new update. It is not Chapter 4, unfortunately, but he has redone a lot of the stuff in Chapters 1 through 3.
Frederick, the Steam launcher is apparently pointing to the wrong file. If you open up the game files, you can find the exe file right there.
Yes. We had a bit of a
Also, yes, we do have a new face. Everyone say hello to Void.
Hi, Void.
He comes for the Void.
Hi, Dr. Void.
He's some kind of weird
everybody.
purple bird monster thing that just showed up one day, and, well, we can't get rid of him.
I came from the drain.
Yep. I have budded. I've
ready.
created a new bird.
That's how birds reproduce. I learned that in science.
Yeah, drop feather and all that. I guess I'll introduce myself. Hi, I'm Void. I am one of the voice actors on this game. I voice Elbar, that rather muscular, romantic-looking character in the background. I don't feature much in chapters 1 and 2, outside of an Easter egg in 2, but I'm heavily involved in chapter 3.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I remember, Jonas, I remember you saying, hey, I'm getting Elbar's voice actor in here, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I saw Void join, and I'm like, oh, Void is joining. I wonder when we're getting that voice actor to come in.
Nice.
I didn't put two and two together until just now.
No pressure. No pressure.
Magnificent. I love it when something or other or something. You can quote me on that.
Insights. If I can think of anything, I'll let y'all know. I'm not privy to a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but if there's anything fun, like recording-wise or anything that comes to mind, I'll let y'all know.
Okay.
Cool beans, as the kids say, like 30 years ago.
So we last played this around December 2020, I think. And yeah, since then I've been watching Maxi's Twitter for a while, and I've really gotten to know them. So I feel like now it's gonna be a different kind of experience, you know. Mm-hmm. Just really like knowing where they're coming from and what, you know, because I just thought, oh, it's a furry. You know, the first time I just thought, oh, it's a furry visual novel, but I mean, it's more than that.
Hey.
Jonas was all like, I want to do that, and then he did it, and he was like, oh, I like this. That's you. Yeah. That's what you sound like.
And I was like,
there's going to be a slightly different historical context now that I know it's supposed to be like Mughal instead of Middle Eastern.
And I was like,
I'm sorry, did you say Mughal?
Like Mugheal.
Oh, because I was thinking Final Fantasy guys with the little dealy boppers on their heads.
Yes, I was going there too.
No, the Spanish Muslims.
Oh,
Mughal.
So like when someone says Mughal, that's what they think.
Anyway, I'm sorry, what you were saying.
I don't know what I was saying.
Best fan fiction ever. This game. No, I'm not going to say that anymore though. But I was.
Good morning.
Oh wow.
God.
That's right. Tweet your Elbar fanfictions to me.
Yeah, we need like Elbar reacts like the Blythe voice actor did.
Oh gosh. I can't do a Welsh accent, but no, I think that'd be a lot of fun. It's actually something we joked about is doing Elbar song covers for a while.
Oh man, now. I would be so down for that.
This version includes full gameplay so far up to Chapter 3. We're still only going to Chapter 3. Chapter 4 is probably not going to be here until later this year. Possibly next year.
It'll be here when it's good and ready.
But there's still other branching paths that we didn't do the first time, so we will get to see that.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I need Elbar to sing Bakamitai.
I don't know that one.
Thank you, Souls Raptor, for the subscription.
Yeah.
9 months. What are you
wow.
gonna name the baby?
I was about to say, you could have a baby in that time.
You should name it Elbar.
What's up with this place? It's ancient. Are you sure we're allowed to be here?
Okay, adjust the volume up a bit.
Lynn.
Yeah.
Cool character.
Yeah.
I love her. She's great.
Yeah.
Let me check. Volumes here.
Feels like the UI got a little bit of a facelift.
It did.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
All of it did. It's fantastic.
I actually have been privy to a little behind the scenes stuff because I'm actually one of the duo that's currently helping Maxi with the Patreon updates. So I know a little bit of what we're in for. What we're in for, I say.
So this is done in Ren'Py, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, that's what Maxi is using.
Someone should probably let them know about the EXE issue. Well, they're probably
Yes.
right now, but
I'm sure he's already inundated.
Yeah, well, just in case, I will make sure that it is brought to Maxi's attention, because that's important.
thanks, dude.
The narrator is not voiced. I do not know why the narrator isn't voiced, so I will have to read all the narrator stuff.
Because the narrator is being saved for you, Rick.
I guess.
Specifically, yeah.
That's appropriate.
No pressure, Rick.
You're allowed to be anywhere as long as no one finds you. Sneaking through forgotten cracks in the wall is not as easy as it once was, but I still managed to push my hat and my staff in somehow without wrecking the wall any further. Today's a mess, and the last thing I'd want is the whole city knowing that I'm back on my nonsense, namely helping fawns trespass into abandoned temples in pursuit of fixing the written lies that pass as history these days.
Boy, if I had a nickel.
I'm too old for this rubbish. Judging by height, probably like, what, 15, 10?
1,000.
1,000. Catch a glimpse of Lynn's expression as I push my scarf over my face again. My newest headache looks entirely unconvinced by my logic. Look, we're already here, and you're going to need all the help you can get, kid. I don't have time to explain every single little thing to you. If said kid still had any qualms left about following me here, she has the rare decency not to voice them. I mean, this whole ordeal is her fault, in a very roundabout sort of way.
Ah, it's new art.
Still her fault nonetheless.
I love that expression.
It's anyone's but mine, at least. I didn't come all the way back to the city to do charity for his descendants. I just wanted to find that dumbass's grave and clean it up a little, or leave some incense or something. Not this.
Yeah, well, you know what? Sometimes it just works out that way.
I wasn't looking to hear legends about any so-called knight of the upper field. I know the books in this library won't say a word about him, but I had to come back to this place anyway. The unlikely possibility of finding a trace of his existence among the broken tablets and burnt codices was far too compelling to ignore. Here I am, still following in his footsteps like the few unlucky scripts that time... Like the few unlucky scripts that time and thieves spared, frozen in their shelves as they await the return of someone who will understand them. We have a lot in common, this library and I. The kid's eyes open a fraction wider. I only managed to narrowly avoid the oncoming onslaught of questions. Here, ink, paper. You can write, right?
Of course! You're talking to the fastest!
Got it. Askadaz. Is that her name? Askadaz.
I believe it's Askadath.
Ask it out.
Askadath?
Yeah, because remember, the
Yes.
Z is pronounced like a...
Boy, howdy,
Askadath.
is that Z a fun little tidbit. That was a lot of times I had to read, a lot of retakes.
That is very difficult to remember.
Sheesh, you're really adding some flavor to my name, huh? Where did all that salt come from? Or could that be the sweetness of an old flame leaving such a bitter aftertaste?
Oh, I love that delivery.
Ew, no. Don't do that. It makes you sound like your mother. I mean, her mother. Or great-great-great-grandmother? I can't believe the story has derailed this much. How long have I been gone?
I can't even start to guess if you won't tell me how old you are.
I'm entirely too old to care about something dumb as numbers.
So really old, in other words.
Do you have a name, or are you too cool for letters too?
My name would only doom this project. You will be me, and I will be nothing more than the space between words.
What a droll way to say you want me getting lynched for this.
I can still keep the story to myself and tell you to get lost, kid.
But you won't, because after hearing my name, you realize I'm the chosen gazelle that legend of old prophesied would tell the true story of the night, right?
Yeah, sure.
Vibrant energy, she says this.
I could use a little encouragement here, not gonna lie.
She's shaking with energy.
Lynn, I don't believe in chosen ones, and I certainly don't know what the truth is. I doubt Ader himself ever knew. But I'm going to tell you the story I know. I will tell it once, and I will probably tell it wrong since I can barely remember it anymore. But even so, anything I say will be 1,000 times more accurate than any of the odes this witless bunch of fopdoodles have been singing throughout the ages.
Fopdoodles is such a good word. I need to make sure I use it every day.
That is a good word.
Oh, Maxi's lexicon is fantastic.
I've noticed. Maxi has a huge vocabulary. Almost as big as Seb's, Well, anyway, moving on.
Come on.
Personality. Backstory.
Yeah, backstory. I'm all into Seb's backstory.
You wouldn't be focusing strictly on physical traits now, would you, Stoker?
Would I do such a thing? Me?
This may be Ader's punishment for lying his way into history, but I still can't let the name of a friend be smeared like that. So what I mean to say is that I will screw you if you interrupt me and make me forget something.
Fair.
He finally shuts up for a moment, though I know the silence won't last. Right, good. I guess I should put my own thoughts in order before we begin. His story started back when he left his village to... No, that would be too long. His story starts when he became a knight and... No, that defeats the point. I guess his story starts with me. I could allow myself that much merit, right?
Who are you again?
I'm the one who tells a story you write. Okay, alright, here we go. Chapter 1.
Woo!
Fickle Queen, or what better way to start a story than when things are about to go south?
That's
the
pretty
best
much
part,
the best
yes.
time.
It was the best of times.
Better.
It could have been better times.
Good times.
Hey, lad. Do we have to go through this every single fuck?
Yeah. I don't like Yoff.
Oh boy.
Why not?
Here we go.
Goff's great.
He is.
I mean,
His voice actor is super cool dude, too.
it's an interesting character.
Well, every single character in this is some flavor of asshole. You have to understand that.
That's what we call writing.
Yes.
I'll have you know I am not an asshole, and in fact the main character of this story.
Everyone's the hero of their own story. Except for me, I'm the villain of mine.
Oh.
Way to call me an eyesore.
I'm telling you.
Before anyone asks, the only voice actor I actually recorded with was Adders.
Oh, nice.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Manly Stanley, I think, on Twitch. Super nice dude. Really, really funny.
Are his hands as big as Adder's? That's the most important question.
You know, that was something I was actually kind of looking at. I did not get a good view of his hands.
Then he's hiding something.
Look, I'm not drunk enough for this, so good.
This ain't no time to sleep. The beast may be gone, but the Macadar is still out there. The forest's out there and it's come to find me.
Can you stop screaming like an idiot and use your brain for a second?
I knew they'd get to the city one day. We gotta tell everyone.
That's a no,
There are
then.
no damn trees around, you dimwit!
A long shush followed right after, or that's what we'll go with, since the words their dear neighbors used were too colorful to be reproduced.
Oh, then what did you holler for, Mr. Bard? The sun ain't up yet. If you don't quit your whining, we're gonna get a beating.
Says you, the buck who hath been delighting mine ears with his pitiful wailing all night long.
Say what?
You've been talking in your sleep again.
All right, do we remember what we chose the first time?
I have no idea.
No.
I love how our plan going into this is we're going to try different branching paths, and none of us checked to see what the choices we made the first time were.
I don't know if this is.
I don't think this
choice
really
that
matters, though.
I know, but
It's not really going to
funny
matter
me.
until we figure out what happens in Chapter 2.
Fair and valid.
Darn well when I'm dreaming, and that wasn't no dream. No, sir. But even if it was, ain't like I can control my nightmares.
Well, not with an attitude like that, you can.
When you live with someone, you gotta take the good with the bad, you know?
Then give me a minute to reconsider if taking you in was really such a great idea.
Come on, Mr. Bart, don't be ugly. Who carries you home when you empty a barrel and you start to beeline? Me. Who convinces Eligrab to let you out of the dungeon when you mess up and he catches you? It's your friend Shorthorns over here. Because we're friends, right?
Come on, don't make Adder
My dear
sad.
bumpkin.
Sadder.
Emotional.
Sadder.
What? Fair? Fair? Oh, 3.
Don't.
The fair!
I swear to Bytet, kid, if you keep screaming, I'm going to kill you.
Not if they get to me first!
And so, Adder's heavy hooves stomped the ground in the forest of a stampede as he sprinted away, making Jeff regret every decision that led to him suffering this torment.
Glad we sorted that out.
Is his
I like
name
his
Jeff?
eye.
How's it pronounced? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yoff.
Yeah.
I need to remember this.
Yeah.
It may come up at some point again in the story.
Like, get the hell out of there.
Exactly.
Wide awake now and running as fast as his clumsy hooves would let him, Adder set off to the bazaar. A whole year had come and gone since he'd first set foot on the streets of the Slander District, the most infamous slums of the capital. A place so heinous that walking there alone at night was considered a suicide attempt. A place where you were in your right to keep a house if you could outlast its previous owner.
I'm not sure if I believe that. It sounds like slander to me.
Where he'd once felt like a poor fawn fearing for his life, now he felt like a poor deer fearing for his life. But at least he actually knew his way around after such a long time avoiding brigands. He had no time to spare worrying about trivial matters, such as being robbed or stabbed, for he knew fully well that he was to meet his destiny.
The patron's gonna skin me alive!
Dude,
I'm literally just picturing Maxi holding a little adder cut out on a stick and making it bounce around whenever he does that.
That's actually something I really loved about this game. This is like against puppetry, and I love it.
Oh, I love
Destiny.
It's very
seeing
theatric like that.
A
I
destiny
love seeing
which
all the puppetry goofs that go on with this.
a destiny which most likely didn't really include being flayed by his dearest employer. Though we can't rule out the possibility of his direct superior whacking him in the head for oversleeping on such an important date.
Dearest employer.
She hates me now.
Dearest.
Then patron won't have no problem kicking me out. He'll kick me out and keep my skin as a payment. Nah, that's dumb. But he'll kill me anyway. Oh crap!
So immersed was he in these fatalistic thoughts invading his head that his brain, which was by all accounts mostly made up of sawdust, didn't pay any mind to the path his hooves were following. And so, as is to be expected from someone not heeding wise advice, look where you're going, he soon met the first obstacle on his way to the plaza.
God, I've missed
A wall.
Adder.
Dear.
In any other place, that soft chuckle would have meant that Adder wouldn't have the benefit of living with his failures alone. In the slums, it could mean that he wouldn't have the benefit of living at all.
That was almost impressive. I truly thought that you were going to run straight through that wall for a moment.
The voice got closer by the second, followed by a strangely harmonic tinkling, a melody that danced in his ears and paralyzed his mind, rendering him frozen in the spot at the thought of an incoming murderous lady. Adder shut his one remaining eye and held his breath deeply, knowing that it would be the last. Not dead yet. Still not dead. How come he was still alive? That's just rude.
Right?
I need to tweet that.
Between his blurry sight and the obfuscating darkness, Adder could barely tell apart the silhouette standing right in front of him. He should have run and screamed and begged for his life, but instead, he hesitated long enough for a few stray sunrays to wander among the rundown houses, finally casting light upon his foe.
Whoa!
Oh,
Animation.
For your information, everyone already thinks that Rose are thick-skulled. We don't need another martyr for the cause.
There she is.
Yep.
stunning beauty.
Adder's absolute lack of reaction made her mocking smile falter. To be fair, he had indeed left a sizable hole on the wall he just crashed against, but that was hardly the cause for a sudden drop in mental speed.
Are you okay?
I feel like I'm about to be a lot better.
Adder nodded, though he hadn't really heard the question. Sensing this, the mysterious lass extended a soft hand towards him in an amiable gesture.
This hand. This hand. It's a good drawn hand.
It's a devil's
It
bargain.
is.
And with these
But do
hands,
we-
I hold the fate of millions.
Do we take her hand or try to be the cool guy?
I'd say take her hand.
Once again, I do not remember what we chose last. Actually, given us, we probably
Pretty
chose
sure-
to take her hand last
Yes.
time.
I'm pretty sure we did.
Play it cool.
Yeah, let's play. We're cool guys, right?
Yeah, I'm all good. Darn fine, man. I was just practicing my tackles, see? Ha! Ha! I'm a Karnmai fighter. Don't mean to brag, but I'm kind of a big deal.
So you're a street fighter,
Oh.
right?
So you're one of those headbutting brutes. I should have known.
No, I ain't no brute.
And game over. Sep never took an interest
He
in you.
immediately takes it
You see the
back.
side of these sticks on my head? What am I supposed to do with them? Tickle the other buck to death?
Then I guess you have yet to explain the part where you run into a wall.
You know, just the usual around these lands. I was running for my life. In fact, you and I should both get going before a local shows up with a knife.
Was that a rhyme just now? And how are you so sure that I'm not going to rob you, my dear shantytown poet?
Adder was much too concussed to
Shantytown
think this
Poet.
twice.
Is a band name. It would make an excellent band name.
All he saw was a chance to polish his charlatan skills, the one arguably good thing he acquired from Geoff.
Well, man, folks around here come in two flavors. Stabby and gritty. But I ain't never seen a thief that looked quite so pretty.
He rhymed again.
He did. He's got the
It's
poetry in
gotten
his
into you all
soul.
of a sudden.
It's all thanks to you that my spirits are high. Cause lady, your booty don't fit in a single eye.
Well done.
Nice save there, Adder. Nice save.
Absolutely smooth.
Amazing.
Yeah, compliment or
Okay, so
Appropriate.
yeah.
Inappropriate. What a fancy word, man. You can call me worse things if you like. Or you can call the guards. Or Illigram. Or I could just save you the trouble and go turn myself in right now.
you can call me all sorts of mean things if you like. I'll take it.
Stumbled back.
Might even enjoy it.
He stumbled back, ushering apologies that surely made no sense whatsoever. Or maybe he recited another poem to apologize. We'll never know for sure, for his accent became so thick whenever he lost his school that academics to this day still argue if that way of talking can truly be considered Cernar. But I digress. The maiden remained somehow nonchalant. In fact, she was observing him with renewed interest.
Now, there's no need to panic. I do appreciate the compliment.
You do?
Well, it was cute, so I appreciate the feeling, I suppose.
She holds her hand up like that, looks like a gun.
She's doing finger guns, man. She invented them. She's an innovator.
A deer that
He's
dares
gunning for
say
you.
such words in public is very rare indeed. Unique, even. Say, haven't we met before?
Adder
Yeah,
could feel
pretty
his
safe
fur
file.
ruffle under her stare. He did his best to look somewhat composed at the very least.
No? Hold on. Let me take a closer look. Nope. Not at all. You sure didn't get the wrong buck, ma'am?
Short
Sure,
hair.
Adder, you might want to take a closer look. And a closer
There's
look
no
after that.
mistaking it. You're just the deer I've been looking for.
I mean, the one eye does give it away, since he looked significantly different the last time she saw him.
And you've had me looking for quite a while now.
Ma'am! I don't know what you're selling, but I ain't gonna buy it.
Come on. Don't you remember that night on the bridge under Hirab's statue? With the guards laughing at you?
That
You
was a
didn't hit your
long
head that hard, did you?
I bet those guards had one haystack of a night laughing at some poor buck. I'm pretty darn sure that wasn't me. I'd remember you. Trust me.
It was a pretty long time ago, but... Wait, I know.
She bit her lip just long enough to make Adder lose his need to understand the situation anymore.
Come close.
Yeah, that works on me, too.
Who, me? Almost asked a deer, yet there was no one else hiding in the mist of dawn.
I said come closer.
All right,
Don't
then, here
make
I
me
come.
tell you twice.
Closer?
That's it? Come on, don't make me walk over there.
You know, all those 2 feet away.
That's close enough.
She slipped right under Adder's arm, uninvited, but not unwelcomed.
Now, if you could get on your knees,
Yes, ma'am!
You know what? Maybe you should
his
see a
tongue
doctor
malfunctioned.
after all.
His everything malfunctioned.
Just see it! There you are!
Ugh, give me a break.
In less than a blink, her smile was back on her face as she turned to face the voice in the distance. It was some other doe, similarly flashy clothing, hurriedly stomping her way towards Jasif, apparently.
You called?
We've been looking everywhere for you!
And so you found me. Congratulations. Now, if you don't mind...
Miss Rochelle's had us searching for hours! She wants you back immediately!
Dumb wench.
I'm kind of busy, so...
Whoa,
Would
whoa.
you be so kind
Whoa.
as
That's
to
what the game
find
said.
someone else to bother while I catch up with my...
That wasn't me. That was the game.
Thank you.
There's
No much.
a
Sure,
bunch of us.
GC.
Head back already or you'll get us all in trouble!
Red-haired girl stood completely still. She held her breath for an instant.
I know many red-haired
I'm
girls that hold their
sorry.
breath.
Was that an order?
What? Miss Rochelle said...
Say, do you know what happened to the last wench who had the gall to order me around?
Me?
Jasif's smile was still plastered on her face, but her eyes had narrowed down to a squint, sharpening her long eyelashes even further.
I don't...
Care to find out?
The doe, looking for her, stammered, color drained from her mane. After a few tense seconds, a pleased smile spread across Jasif's face.
Come now, honey. Don't make that face. I'm just joking here. I've got too much going on as it is to begin picking fights with my sisters. Don't you think?
Right.
Then that's settled. Let's go.
Jasif whipped her braid as she turned around sharply, making the choir of bells that hung from her hips announce her leave. Adder had barely just a second to register what had happened. He could swear something had moved in a corner, but he couldn't care less. The finest lass he'd laid eyes upon in his whole life was about to disappear, and she seemed to have forgotten all about him. Facing the prospect of never seeing her again, he tried at the very least to catch up to introduce himself formally.
Wait,
Yes?
But as Adder was about to speak, he had the same feeling of missing something. And so his gaze drifted following her back. Once more, he noticed something else moving behind her derriere, something long like a whip, ending on a red tuft of fur. Yes, of course.
Adder, you are going too far down. Get out of there.
If you go much further down, you'll be looking at her ankles.
Something that most definitely didn't look like a cervine tail. Confused, his eyes quickly traveled from the zone where her back lost its name to the top of her head. Praying. Wishing. Desperately hoping that he wouldn't find what he found be sprouting from the top of her red head. Horns.
Took you this long to notice that, Adder?
Coiled black Barahan horns, longer than his own rack. Adder had to hold back a yelp. He'd been so distracted by the rest of her features that... No! No way! I wouldn't look at her! Adder yelled internally. Beads of sweat began falling from his temples as his face became even more flustered. There's no way I... But, as if meaning to aggravate his inner turmoil, Joseph smiled one last time with a mischievous glint in her eyes.
Don't worry. I'll see you around. Handsome.
Adder was so many things. He was goofy, he was loud, he had a smile that could light up a whole town, he was gigantic, and yet, if there was a thing he'd never call himself, it was, no doubt, handsome. After all, After all, Bucksworth may as well be as large as his horns are, and his were, well, tiny. Almost childlike. So that offhanded compliment, that mere insinuation that someone found him actually good-looking, made his heart flutter. And by flutter, I mean it may as well burst out of his chest right then.
What if it actually did, though? Like, it just took off and ran down the street?
And our anxiety has reached a level that we've never seen before.
So, for just 1 second, he forgot that the lady in front of him was horned. For a moment, he forgot all the things he'd heard about gazelles. His face turned red, his jaw came loose, but had he been able to articulate, he'd have found he'd completely forgotten the ability to talk. He still knew how to do one thing, though.
Dream of endless suffering.
We've all been there.
This time, his shame was stronger than the wall.
Wait, what? Stop right there. What was that last bit?
The bit about the wall or the... Oh, I see. Ruminants haven't always been so successful at living together as they are now. Wars, gods, horn shape, all the excuses to be different used to make a lot more sense to mortals back then.
No, I know that, but there's no way the knight would have thought something so awful.
Adder was young, insecure stag in a time when every row felt the need to deny having a single drop of Baharan blood in their veins. Why would he think any different?
Why wouldn't he? That's the point, isn't it? That he was different from the rest. How could he believe any of that crap?
How should I know? I never had anything against gazelles.
Sounds like you weren't a whole lot bothered by those who did, though.
You're right. I wasn't. I just thought that there always had to be someone to punch down on, and I spent all my energy making sure that would never be me. That was the world as I saw it, and I never hoped it could be any different. Never wanted it to change. Adder, though, I think he never meant to do that to anyone. I think he just hadn't realized that there was more to this world than the fears he had been raised with. He had to butt heads with more than one type of wall in his life. I could be wrong, of course. His understanding could have been yet another pretense, and he may have very well lied about wanting to fight with the rest of us until his very last breath. No. I'm sure he did grow to be a wise and kind man, Lynn. Much wiser and kinder than I ever was, at least. Neither of us would be here making excuses for that dumbass otherwise.
Well, I don't care about you, but he'd better rise up soon. I have high-quality standards for my ancestors.
Glad you do, kid. Now, where were we? Sun was already up in the sky by the time Adder managed to remember that he was supposed to go to the bazaar.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to arrive so late. Please don't kill me.
Lo and behold, there was no one around.
what do you know? First again! I'm gonna have to ask for a raise at this rate. Oh, hold up. Now it's time for that. And he could get here at Boss!
Uh-oh.
Oh, the glowing eyes.
You're gonna end up
That must be... is that new?
up on people like that, you know.
I think it is.
Right. Don't you think for a second I forgot I was supposed to prepare the stall. No, ma'am. But, you know, days are getting longer, and it's harder to sleep at night, and the streets are real crowded, and...
A silent glare told him that she didn't believe a single word, but she didn't care enough to pry either.
Hey now! Quit giving me that look, missy! You got here late, too.
He pointed at her hair. Drops of silvery green water were dancing on her tips, painting the ground beneath them.
How is it my fault that you were busy dyeing your hair?
Just is, man.
Leaving him with that perfectly valid question unanswered, she walked back to pick up a big bag she left a few steps away. She lifted it up with a single hand and then headed toward the stall, closely followed by Adder. It was about time that they began working. A sudden thought popped up in Adder's mind as he helped her set up their carpet.
So, how come the patron ain't here? Just gonna be the two of us today?
Man, I've been utterly brain rotted. Every time he says patron, my mind tries to parse it as Patreon.
Yeah.
Same here.
Ina simply shrugged.
You won't tell your pa I got here late, right, boss?
She punched his arm with such strength that she almost made him fall sideways.
Ow! What did I... Oh.
Eyes.
Sorry, boss.
This little reminder that was a sensitive issue effectively killed the conversation. People from all over Heirloom began congregating in the bazaar, turning the walled plaza into a sea of spice, trinkets, and deer. Currents of that sea were still difficult to understand for Adder, who often found himself pushed to the ground in the busiest hours. Today would be especially lively. It was the beginning of the Monsoon season, and so the festive Icane had to make sure to bid proper farewell to the rain clouds so they'd be back again by the end of it. Pleasant change from Adder's usual day-to-day, working in Aina's forge under the continuous risk of suffering a heat stroke or third-degree burns.
Yeah, that sounds like fun to me.
Welcome, welcome! We got the best prices in town! Come on and see what goods we offer!
There was no reaction whatsoever to his incessant yelling. Other than Ina snickering at him for trying so hard, that is.
Sure must be fun watching me break my back so your dad won't yell at us.
Love those teeth.
The chompers.
I like the thumbs up.
Alongside, Ina sat up and cast a tired glance over the carpet. She reached out and grabbed a small shiny dagger. After checking its sharpness against her glove, she began stabbing the air as possible customers approached the stall, attempting to showcase its intended use. Adder quickly put his hand over her shoulders, discreetly bringing her arms down.
You know what? I take that back. There ain't no deer in the world that works harder than Aina of the Test. There just ain't. A hard worker like you deserves a good rest every once in a while, so just let me take care of this, boss.
He did his best to attempt at a natural smile. Aina, who couldn't care less about any of this, simply shrugged and sat back, still wielding the knife. She let her hand fall on one of the stones that paved the bazaar and effortlessly tore it from the ground, deciding that it served better as a sharpening tool.
You do you.
Ah, cute.
It was best to
Fun
leave the
fact.
issue alone. Adder,
Yeah, no. So Aina is actually voiced by Maxi. I don't know
Right.
if that's something y'all knew.
Oh yeah, the little grunts and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to imagine that he had a very particular idea of what kind of voice acting he wanted for Aina, and it's just one of those, if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself.
Yeah, a little bit of that. It's almost, I would argue, it's almost like an author write-in character. I mean, every single one of these characters is Maxi to some regard, but Aina especially.
Yeah, I know how that goes. Every what?
Nothing. Never mind.
it was best to leave the issue alone. Adder had figured out quite some time ago that Aina was a creature of habit, and her habits included steadfastly refusing to put any effort into anything she didn't care about. But it never really bothered him at all. There was something fascinating about watching her get completely absorbed by whatever task she had chosen to focus on, really. Adder never quite had that level of dedication to his craft, if he even had one. She could hammer tirelessly at a single hunk of metal for hours at a time if the piece required so, all while judging Adder's every move with the same intensity. She was just as capable of sitting in a corner and glaring away the hours while she sank deep into her own imagination. That's why I immediately knew something was off when she turned her face away from the dull knife of her own accord.
Huh? What's wrong, boss? Wait, is that... Oh, no. Don't tell me he's coming this way!
Ooh.
I wasn't going to tell him either way, but coming this way was he, being Adder's worst one-sided nightmare. I have no idea how to pronounce this.
Void?
Almatekin. Oh.
I
would argue Altimation. Almotation or something. I'd argue that.
The Almotation of Heirloom Soak.
That guy.
Taylor the Treasurer, followed by his pale retinue.
I love that you guys immediately came to me like, hey!
You know me? I don't know. Do you have any insight? Were you asked to pronounce that word at any point? I have no idea.
I just wing it.
That's what I'm supposed to do.
Adder didn't even have time to yelp before the merchant among the merchants politely announced his presence with an ancient greeting.
Tsakirmat, Miss Tense. I'm aware of how hectic the stall must be today, so I won't keep you long. I simply realized what a rare occasion it is to see you out in a crowd, so I thought I would take a moment to come and pay my respects to you. I hope you'll find some solace seeing a familiar face among the hustle and bustle.
His eyes turned sharply away from Taylor, closely accompanied by the tip of her knife. The Stag's head followed the motion, only to find the eerily immobile set of deer waiting by his side.
I understand the apprehension you feel towards my company, but I'm afraid these are the only escorts I can ever trust with my back anymore. It's a dangerous world out there for people like me. Speaking of which, where's your father? Has he considered my latest proposal? Or will I have to send any more of my people his way?
Adder didn't miss the way Ina's fingers clenched around the dagger she was sharpening. Come up with an excuse or distract him?
Distract her so she can stab him? No.
Distract him could be pretty funny.
Yeah.
Let's see what this goober can do.
Holy hordes! Check out that Buck's grapevine, boss! It's gotta be the biggest tree I've seen in my life, from root to branchlers. Darn! That shrub's worth a fortune, I'm telling you. And trust me, I'm Chanchurian born and raised. I know a thing or two about giant trees.
Oh, Adder. You beloved dolt.
Prince at Bell.
Dumb man.
Ina didn't bat an eye at the interruption, while Taylor didn't even seem to hear him. Their bizarre staring contest remained strictly a two-person business. Adder never was one to give up so easily, however.
Yep,
Oh,
sure
no.
would be nice if we could have a plant like that dragging our stuff around. Oh, it's a real shame the patron don't plan to bother showing up today. We could have tried to convince him together. Whoever buys that tree is going to show the world he's a deer with class. Ain't that right, ain't it?
Adder didn't do anything more remarkable than put a hand on Ina's shoulder to make Taylor shoot a look in his direction at last. It was but a brief glance, a glance best reserved for a slug crawling up your leg, a glance so scolding that it could make weeds wilt and crumble to dust within seconds. The kind of glance that would normally precede the untimely death of an elongated yellow stag.
Yeah.
As Adder's luck would have it, however, recognition set in and the merchant's gaze just at the right moment. An unsettling half-smile formed in his face instead.
Ah, yes. I remember you now. Geoff's little paramour. The oversized one-eyed fawn that wanted to be a knight. One Durandun for a full set of armor was what you requested, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope. I mean, yep. I mean, sir, I never dare say you're mistaken, but I doubly not dare say so when it comes to numbers. Imagine it. Poor farm boy could barely count trying to tell the Taylor how money works. Darn, just thinking about it cracks me up. No, sir, I can't. I just can't believe for one moment the most famous loner in all of Heirloom would be so kind to remember a dumb buck's dumb dreams, much less his ugly friggin' mug.
Ooh.
Of course. I never forget a face, no matter how weathered or insignificant. That is you remiss of me.
Taylor nodded to himself thoughtfully, giving Adder a chance to discreetly crawl behind Aina. Despite the Yellowstack's desperate inner pleas, Taylor's eyes soon shifted towards him again.
Forgive my curiosity. I just can't help but wonder. How can a country boy with ambitions as great as yours go on living, day after day, knowing he can't aspire to more than his deplorable life? Yoff can barely stay sober enough to feed himself, never mind someone twice his size. It must be exhausting, staying alive.
Being you.
Oh, no, not at all. We manage. Sorta.
Taylor's soft features drew closer to Adder, but he barely even noticed. His only eye remained glued to Taylor's bodyguards.
It's not too late to consider the offer I made you back then. Let me put those deformed hands of yours to better use. I could give you the armor and the money to pay for it now, if you come work for me in the sewers. It won't be much worse than whatever the blind witch has you doing.
That's mighty kind of you, Mr. Taylor, but it's poor manners to consider job offers in front of your own boss.
You make a fair point. Perhaps once I've torn that red scab off our guild's back then. Aina.
Taylor finished his farewell with a bow, and thus left the moneylender at last, followed by the delayed rhythm of a calcareous march. Calcareous.
How curious.
Freaking Maxi.
Calcareous.
Don't ask me, I just work here.
Adder's body had somehow contorted into being nearly indistinguishable from Aina's at this point. He needed a few more seconds to thaw out of that position.
Divine beeswax, I'm crawling out of my skin here. Who the hell you laughing at now, huh? That weirdo ain't no joke, you hear me? Last time I talked to him, it only took me shoving my hoof in my mouth half a second to swish, get a blade on my neck. And all I could see out of this eye was the creepy face of one of those golem...
Aina's ears perked up, though her gaze remained firmly locked on the blade.
No, yeah, of course you'd find it funny, Mistress Miss Tess. Paying my respect sure is a fancy way of saying he got the hots for you.
Adder barely avoided getting his liver punctured by an extremely flustered Aina.
The stock sound effects really make that.
The hours passed by slowly and painfully, for they were completely ignored by any passerby. Actually, avoided rather than ignored. It was no surprise.
Potato, potato.
The merchant, Adder's patron, and his mute daughter were two of the most despised people in the city. In spite of the incredible variety of antiquities and smithery that the merchant had for sale, no one ever bought a single thing. And there were plenty of reasons for that. Even Adder had some serious doubts about working for an old Botran man whose fur was redder than blood and an albino smith that insisted on dyeing her hair green. The fact that they worked independently from Illyrium's heirlooms. Why do I keep saying Illyrium? Heirlooms Trader Guild has probably had something to do with it too. In any case, it was well afternoon. They hadn't done anything but sit around the whole day.
They're Ireland's.
Adder pressed his lips together and began drumming his fingers against the floor. He looked askance at Aina, hoping his subtle call for attention had stirred her curiosity, but there was no answer. He'd have to be the one to actually break the silence as usual.
So, hey, Aina.
Oh, talking with a
I
mute.
bet you're still wondering just what in the world could make a hard-working buck like this one get here so late this morning.
Aina stopped hitting the rock with a blade. She barely moved her eyes towards Adder.
Well,
in my eyes.
Because there's a whole story there. This got to stay between you and I. But, this morning...
I ran through a wall.
I saw a gazelle. Not any gazelle. No, ma'am. She was the fanciest gazelle girl I've ever seen.
Damn, he's just
There
going
she
straight
was in the
at it.
slums, strutting her hips, shaking, earthquaking, heart melting.
Oh, you horn eater. You horn dog.
And an inquisitive gaze suddenly made Adder very conscious of his own words and thoughts. Adder was most certainly not used to having her pay attention to him when he spoke.
But ugly.
I love the look for teeth.
So I just ran away because she was so awful. Ugh, yuck. Yeah.
Adder could feel Hyena's like eyes stared at his very soul, piercing a hole with a question that she meant to ask. It was such an intense look that he felt flustered. The usual silent demeanor, Aina brought her two gloved hands in front of her face. She balled them both into a fist, raising just her index fingers. Then she lifted them until they rested on her forehead like tiny horns.
Horns?
Quick motion, she took her horns to her mouth, biting them.
I ain't no gosh darn freaking horn eater, okay? I like does.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Mm-hmm.
Best way to find Aina's smile at that precise moment would be terrifyingly mean. While her bad temper was known and feared among the other merchants, it was usual for her to be so acidic, especially towards Adder.
Potato.
Adder
Right at
couldn't
her.
help but notice this change, and he wasn't going to keep it to himself, of course.
You're acting real ugly, boss.
Smile on her face vanished, replaced instead by a grimace. In response to this affirmation, Aina merely shifted her gaze back to the blade and resumed her task, pretending she hadn't heard him. But if Adder was known for one thing, it was his incessant need to stick his nose in everyone's business.
If he's known for two things, it was his gigantic hands.
And then he was a horn eater.
For some reason, I wasn't prepared for you to say that, GC.
You scared or something, boss?
A wrinkle formed over her nose as she focused on keeping calm. Adder quickly understood what was irking her.
Now. I ain't dumb enough just yet to go asking you to explain. Just promise me that you're gonna let me know if it's too much for you, okay? One nod, ma'am.
She looked up, pointing at different parts of the crowd with her snout. Then she shrugged, trying to hide under the shade of their stall.
Well, of course it's crowded. It's a friggin' fair. Just what in the name of hats was the patron thinking, leaving y'all alone in the stall?
You know, only seemed to become even more conflicted as he said this.
Sorry, I didn't mean... Look, boss, your pa must have thought the same thing I think. That you're the strongest and the coolest, and you can do this if you wanna. And you ain't alone anyway. No, ma'am. Adderson, son of Gerfaz of the upper fields right here for you. All day, every day. Now, come on. How many hugs do the patroness need to feel better?
2.
Adder
One
opened
with
his arms
each
wide,
hand.
looking for a hug. Then he found the tip of a dagger inches away from his big snout.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Well, someone don't like to hug in public. I know that now. Got it? Yep. I swear on my one good eye that I ain't gonna forget it for the rest of my life.
Your romance level's only 1.
Ma'am, let me live a little longer.
For real though, Ader, Aina, OTP, yay or nay?
For my money, I ship an OT3 in this game.
Hey, I ship it.
And, the third member is currently absent.
Aina looked confused for a moment. She dropped the knife in a hurry as soon as she realized that she was still wielding it. Fairly flustered, she tried to sign some kind of apology, which in turn led to Adder to apologize as well, which conversely made Aina attempt some sort of embrace as a compensation. So in the end, they just shook each other's arm awkwardly and called it a day.
Oh, just kiss already!
Hey, there's Tree, Ufer.
Adder and Nina immediately jumped away from each other, doing their worst, best attempt at looking half professional. Thunderous laugh resonated over the ruckus of the bazaar.
Kilogram?
It's respectable Illigrab Bund Hollows to you, boy. But please, don't hold back on my account. I'll just look the other way.
I mean, it's just, why wasn't he another animal?
Because sometimes there's a tree.
He's a tree. That's why I call him Ultra Tree.
You can't just
fantasy
ask
setting.
someone.
There is magic and stuff, right?
You can't just ask someone why they're not an animal, Jonas.
Why aren't you a tree, Jonas?
Yeah. Do you ever think about that? No, you only think about yourself.
It's a very long story, okay?
Why are you a tarantula, Jonas?
Wait, what?
Yeah, why aren't you a tarantula, Jonas?
Tell us, Jonas, who do you pine for? What things do you like to spruce yourself
Okay,
up?
let's just get back to the
Now. Don't be talking all sappy now.
Oh, we all know he's about the fur.
Again, what do you got against maple trees, Jonas? Okay.
All right.
Anyway, I hear he's a big fan of the maple.
What?
Maple.
I get it.
Man, rough crowd.
Come on, Jonas, stop being such a birch.
Okay.
Oh!
And so appeared the man that was so red that it would seem that he'd stolen all the color his daughter was lacking.
Better than being evergreen.
Oh my god.
I got it.
He gets the respect and I don't.
I'm never coming back.
What's that salacious dog?
Whoa,
doing
new
to
spray.
my daughter now?
Oh my god, the
They're
hair.
just strengthening their ties of friendship.
Oh yeah, he is
or
way
as they
different
say,
in this version now.
Nodding.
Wow.
Yes,
Oh,
he is.
yes. He is.
Merchant shook his cane, hitting Illigrab's twiggy leg with a loud thunk. The tree man just wiggled his mustache in response.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Hold up. We weren't doing anything, patron. That's the problem, you cumberground! You lighter sack! You!
Coughing fit saved Adder from more old-timey insults, which he could barely comprehend.
You flop doodle! There, see, I brought it back.
Oh.
There
Once
you
he
go.
recovered, the merchant put his bearded face next to Adder's, resting the tip of his cane on Adder's chest. He opened his toothless mouth slowly, his breath reeking more like bleach than liquor.
You haven't sold
The wild
a single
fist
thing,
galoos.
have you?
Come on, we never sell anything. So.
Now.
That's no
hardly
excuse.
Their fault, Red.
I'm sure this Yeltsin was just frolicking with my daughter as usual!
She's old enough to frolic as she pleases.
She
Oh,
hasn't
damn.
even come of age yet!
Of course she hasn't. There's no way for her to pass that right.
Of course there is! She just needs to open her mouth and stop being an idiot!
The only idiot here is the one talking, patron. Ainus just
Ooh.
I wish that rub off on you! And maybe you
Ooh.
learn to keep your mouth shut when adults are talking!
But I did pass the coming of age right, sir. I got them adult horns and...
Shut up! Don't you have anything to say about this, insolent child? Dana?
I really want to talk to the merchant's voice actor someday, because this dude spouts the funniest lines.
You know, the thing
Away
that gets
while
me...
You two were arguing.
The thing that gets me about his voice is it always reminds me very, very heavily of a Game Grumps bit where they were trying to be Mr. Wilson from Dennis the Menace.
I don't remember that.
And there's like a very major similarity in the tone, the rasp, and even the inflections. It's very funny to me.
Nice.
I think he does remind me of somebody else, but I can't get their name right now.
It's so good. I love it. Cracks me up.
Well, she looked like she needed it.
This is all your fault! And yours!
He stabbed Adder's nose with the tip of his finger.
What did I do?
That
You
stupid
stood there!
child's been acting up since you first arrived.
Don't blame the poor boy. She's always had an attitude, and you know it.
I don't care. You two better go bugger off somewhere else. Or I swear to Arab that I'll hit you so hard that you'll be cropping at your teeth for a week!
I'm gonna give you 5 across the ass!
Both Adder and Illigrab winced at that.
Now hold up, what?
Come on, Adder. Those two clearly want some alone time. And he'll have plenty of that when I leave him tied to the pyre next time I find a mob outside the shop.
Illigrab took Adder by the cape and lifted him off the ground as they walked away. It didn't take Illigrab
the
long.
narration actually mentions the new cape.
That's right.
It didn't take Illigrab long to notice Adder's unusual reticence to speak.
Please, don't let Red's words affect you. He's, worse today. There's a storm coming from the west, and it's making us old people nervous.
No, the patron can preach and holler all he want. That don't bother me much. I mean, I don't cry anymore, at least.
Aww.
What he said to Aina, though, now that's going 2 paces past the league too far. So what if she can't swear the oath thing? The 3 won't get mad at her for being mute. And anyway, Aina don't got a pass no right. It ain't like she's getting married any day soon, right?
There. Got it all out of your system, boy?
You know what? All this stuff I'm saying means radish stew if I don't say it to her face. I gotta find her and make sure she's alright.
Illigrab never replied to that last affirmation. He placed Adder carefully on the ground and patted his cape to straighten it.
Well, in that case, I have to go back to keeping watch on the fair. So, this is where we say goodbye for today. Hey, I'll send someone to fetch you if I see her, okay?
Adder nodded resolutely. They waved goodbye to each other.
I love his footsteps.
What's the deal with Illigrab?
What is the deal with airline food?
Yeah, thank you.
He's a tree person.
Giant tree
person, if you will.
Very, very useful for the police force, it seems. Adder nodded resolutely. They waved goodbye to each other, and then the buck just stood there wondering where to start looking when the bazaar was half a league from gate to gate. Assuming she was still in the bazaar at all.
Finally! I thought that fluffy bastard was never leaving.
Geoff walked into the scene with a huge smile as the giant disappeared in the distance.
Afternoon, Mr. Bard.
Oh, lad, what a face.
Well, see, it's a long...
Ah, not a word. Thy mien speaketh clearer than thy tongue doeth. You're hungry.
Verily.
Nah, I ain't in the
Verily.
Well, I am. And I can't play a song when my stomach's growling a gazelle. Let's get some fried leaves.
Sorry, Bard. I ain't got time for any of that. I gotta go look for Aina. She just ran away angry as all get out, and I know darn well if I don't go check up on her, no one's gonna...
And I thought my songs were monothematic.
Yeah, picked the strings of his oud one by one, deep in thought, while Adder just paced around.
I know just the place to look.
Geoff expertly snuck through the crowds, moving with such ease that he seemed to be little more than a shadow. Adder did his best to keep up with him, though that was hardly an easy task when he was 1 head taller than most other deer. The place Geoff was looking for wasn't in the plaza itself, surrounded by stalls and all their merchandise, but rather one of the many alleys that led to the bazaar.
Is it time for a fight?
The crowd there was bustling with life as well, but not quite in the same manner. They were all rowdy deer, pushing and cheering. A Karnmai alley. Karnmai alleys were all very different from the official sort. While killing was still very much frowned upon, there was no chivalry, no one set of rules. There was no way of knowing if the horns you were being gored with were hygienic. There were punches and kicks and all sorts of cheats. It was chaos. And for that,
sounds like fun.
And for that and several other reasons, Aina was a huge fan of unofficial Karnmai. Sadly, as much as Adder jumped at and pushed and yelled, she wasn't anywhere to be found.
Alas, your fair maiden is in another alley.
Everyone else is another castle.
Adder cast
I understand that reference.
Adder cast a long glance over the improvised battlegrounds, attempting to find her one last time.
That's too bad. Aina kicked some serious ass here.
Good thing she's not allowed to fight.
Yeah, ain't no way they're gonna let it go.
A golem, Adder.
Ooh, they
Goff
dressed
cast a
early.
very serious look in his direction. This wasn't the first time they'd had this discussion, and it wouldn't be the last.
How many times do I gotta tell you? Aina is not a golem, Kay? She's a doe. It's just she's a bit of a weirdo.
Aren't we all?
Tell me, Adder dearest, how many albino does can you name off the top of your head that can lift your heavy butt with just one hand?
Aina! Now let's go! We gotta find her!
Acknowledge that without shame.
Why do I even bother? Look at her. Golem or not, she's just a little cabbage head hiding in the crowds of this enormous city. She's damn good at hiding. And do you know why people hide?
Because they don't want to be found.
Goff extended his arms toward him in a dramatic manner, remarking how correct he was.
You're not gonna find her. So why don't you go and use your thick skull for something useful? Like bringing us money so we can have dinner for once.
Goff pointed at the ring with his horns, and Adder knew better than to insist. With a heavy sigh, Adder nodded and began walking towards the ringmaster.
Ah, wait, there's just one more thing. Your bag of coins. You wouldn't want to lose what little we have to the hands of, say, some ill-intentioned crook, now would you?
Better the evil you know, right?
Goff extended his hand a bit too keenly, waiting for Adder to find the purse he usually hid within his sash. But...
Whoa, Bard. You're really gonna bust the gut laughing.
Don't tell me you lost it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Alrighty then.
Goff's Johnny body trembled like a branch about to snap off.
I remember this part.
Go. All right.
Whackity schmackity
blackhead
doo.
over there with the glistening fur and a charming smile. That's your foe. I'll go place my bet now. Are you feeling like a winner, ladder?
Charming? Oh, hold up! You mean the guy with them sharpened horns? Oh, darn, Bard. Your confidence in this poorly put together row is much appreciated, but as much as it hurts me, and it does, I think I'd rather go to bed hungry today.
What?
What if he hits me in the face? I don't want to go from Adder the one-eyed to Adder the no-eyed!
Then do enlighten me, my boy, on how in the name of the Hatsa do you pretend to become a knight if you can't handle even a rack pointed at you? No wonder you can't even catch a hint, yellow piece of mangy venison.
Good grief, dude.
Bit of train in the background this scene.
Yeah,
Yes, no, that's...
I'm so surprised there's trains in this, like, medieval... Spain
Okay,
and,
you know what?
Spain.
You know what? I'm just gonna go out to the tracks and politely to be like, "Hey, Mr. Train, can you come back after the stream is over?"
No, we just hire him for the scene and make it more better.
Yeah, I no, you know what? This is good. This is symbolic. See, it's trying to show that Adder and Goff are on the wrong side of the tracks, right? It's symbolic.
What are you mumbling there, Goff?
I said I'm going to walk you through this, so help me three if you mess up.
Hey, let this dough in. And a girl, you sure eat your veggies. But those sticks on your forehead, I come.
Wait, his voice sounds familiar.
If he's serious, this is gonna be easier than I thought.
Wait, there's a fight coming up? Holy horns, you have to tell me everything about it.
We
What
are.
kind of fighting style did Adder use? Was it antler rattling? He was a rattler, right? Did he prefer grappling or thrusting? Or was he more of a brawler instead? Swish, swish, bam! Pushing them right in the... Wait, did they even have any hand reps his size?
Give me a moment. I think I have to sneeze.
Please.
Or any of those words. I don't know the rules of Karn Mai. I thought you just had to hit people until they fainted. Oh God, it's nothing you come up. I can come up with. It's got to live up to our expectations. I can't deal with the pressure. Ah! You said you did the diet like the palm of your hand, didn't you? The new bearer of the tale of this magnitude should be able to pin a memorable fight scene all on her own, if that's the case. Prove you're worthy of your name, Lynn.
Oh my god, you're right! Yes, this is my moment to shine! Leave it to me!
Yes.
Good
Good.
character.
I shall go and leave you to it so as to not influence you.
What the knight do? Right! He needed a few tips first. So Yoff took Adder aside and held him under his arm. He said, Adder, mine lad, 'tis a dangerous fight that awaits us. But if not in the strength of thy body, I believeth in the strength of thine heart. What with thee saith is the greatest feat a fighter should at each moment striveth for. Well, diggity yee-haw, Bard! What a tootin'!
Get the patch on. Wow.
Question that is. Adder nodded thoughtfully to himself and then continued, I reckon that would be...
Honor!
Expected of a knight, dearest friend. Thou shalt be a rattler then. Ah, honorable style amongst honorable styles. The way our ancestors squareth, where two deer shalt proveth the might of their horns rather than that of their mind. But hoy, Bard! Yelped Adder. Mine horns are so teeny tiny. Yoff smirked. This is where your strength lieth, mine Adder. There is an advantage to short horns, thou see. No one shall be able to lock their horns around.
Am I the only one
yours
noticing
to
that
grapple
Lynn is
thee to
gaining
the
and losing an
ground.
eye patch randomly?
Yes.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, because she's playing different characters.
Correct.
When she plays Adder, she puts the eye patch on.
So daringly dearly.
She also puts it on the wrong guy, so.
Yes,
Yes.
which is doubly funny.
Boar. Everyone will find out if thou keepest talking so
Oh,
loud.
yes.
We mustn't.
I remember her turning it into slash fic.
Yes.
Lynn, how's that scene going?
It's going. It's going.
It's going great.
Oh, they still kept this in here too, I remember this.
Adder found himself alone at last, his dearest friend lost to the blurry tides of people surrounding the ring. Veins were starting to pop in his eye, making it even harder to see anything except the stag waiting in front of him. The deer with sharp horns smirked in his drunken haze, clearly looking down on Adder. It wasn't the first time someone pitied him and lived to regret it, as the drunkard would soon learn. The ringmaster looked left and right, making sure that both fighters knew what they were about to get into. He lifted his hand carefully as he stepped back, and then, "Go!" he screamed with a hand chop.
Most of the time I scream with my mouth.
You too?
Yeah!
Oh, wow.
Small world, isn't it?
The towering deer charged toward Adder like a runaway fur, horns lined and ready to slam into him with the full force of a mid-air stampede. But the roe didn't move a single muscle. Adder merely waited, silencing all voices that screamed at him to run and die. He didn't even assume the stepper rider stance. He just waited, closing his eyes lest the sight of the incoming enemy would betray his nerve. And when the time was right, Adder opened his arms wide, mentally prepared and ready for the incoming attack. Or so he thought. The deer slammed his head into Adder's stomach, nearly sending him to the ground with a single well-placed blow. But when all seemed lost, Adder managed to stand his ground, rapidly holding onto his foe's horns. Adder's foe smirked. By the time our hero realized he had fallen into a trap, his whole body was hovering several arms over the ground. The carrot strikes back. What a foul move! He would have turned Adder into a strainer if the yellow deer had had a single bite's worth of meat in his body. If that had been the case to begin with, he would have been able to struggle against his enemy's hold as he flew across the sky. Or at least you would have been serene enough to come up with a different approach to the situation. But for now, face the pavement it is. You're dead to everyone.
Well, that's it. That's the game, guys.
Well, thank you for coming to see the Hayseed Knight.
No, it was really awesome. Thanks for inviting me.
After
Really
such a
nice
shameful defeat, the writer decided to take page from Adder's book literally. She began writing these words as a means to stall her own anxiety as she tried to understand how she managed to dig herself into such a narrative hole. She had certainly made a mistake somewhere. It's obvious to her prodigious mind that a boy so preoccupied with doing what was good and true and right would hardly be willing to do whatever it took to stand victorious and carve a space for himself in the annals of history. Our wonderful narrator started to realize that perhaps she had misunderstood something about Adder, for she could picture no scenario where a well-meaning and upstanding street fighter could ever get past his first night in Slander District.
Oh, well, I'm Dibbill.
Then Dibbly. Amelin Dibbly of Askadaz, true descendant of the night, decided to revisit her decision, thinking more deeply about what kind of priorities her ancestor would have.
Ah, so thou art a brawler, dearest friend. I have indeed taughteth you well. There is no honor in death. If thine horns will not aid you in battle, use those hands the gods gave you. Pummel them to the ground. Thou shalt win this fight and prevail until the next. But hoy, Bard! Yelped Adder. Mine hands are so bogglingly big! Yuff smirked. All the better to swat their faces away. If they trieth to thrust towards thee with their large horns, thou shalt only need to slap them into the ground. Stand victorious over those who would hurt you, mine Adder.
I want to let the record show that I'm showing remarkable restraint in not saying anything about the phrase thrust towards you with their large horns.
And then they smooshed again, but quietly.
Yes!
Yeah, sharp horns. Now soon learn. Go, hand chop. Wait. Starting to charge toward Adder. Do. And when the time was right. And it's the same thing, right? First there was silence and roaring laughter, throats and jeers. The drunk deer needed a moment to realize that they were being directed at him. He reached down to pull up his pants as best he could, hastily hurling Adder away after his dirty trick. Still holding his foe's belt, Adder fell on his massive hands, barely managing to keep his head over the ground to avoid a shameful defeat after he'd already stooped so low. His foe was distracted. What now?
Kiss him.
Emboldened by his spectacular success, Adder lowered his body over his hands like a spring and launched himself into a flying kick. And promptly fell on the ground face first, breaking his snout on the pavement, because obviously this isn't that kind of story, Lynn. Sheesh, fine. Well aware of the direness of the situation and the nullness of his prime, Adder decided that if he had nothing to lose anymore, he may as well go down in flames.
That's how I do it.
Our protagonist called out to his opponent, loudly mocking him as he jumped from hand to hand, making a fool out of both. The drunk deer turned around, red in shame and fury. He swore, enraged, and charged toward Adder once more, overlooking the tiny little fact that his pants were still down. The whole alley watched in silence as Adder's foe fell obstreperously to the ground, butt out and everything.
That line was written for me.
Our protagonist stared blankly ahead as he got up, his expression as unreadable as that of the public. It was pretty clear that this was a victory of sorts. Yeah, but no one was saying anything. After a few uncomfortable harumphs, the ringmaster scratched the back of his head, looked around vehemently, then proceeded to kindly pull up the drunkard's pants before screaming, "Down!" And so Adder emerged victorious, winning the fight on his own terms, questionable and messy as they may be, and living to see another day. Wait, so he wins?
Of course he wins. He's the knight, you doof.
Right. Never mind then. Well done, Lynn.
I'm pretty great, yes.
Now, what's this torn page you're trying to hide behind your back?
Wait, don't!
Love the expression on his face. Oh, he's blushing. Wow.
So anyway.
Oh, I can't believe it! Still alive and kicking! Come on, show me the money, Bard! I want to bite every single coin!
I completely forgot to place the bet!
Geoff covered his face with his hands, making some sort of unintelligible noise that can only be described as a very sound of anguish.
Hey, Big Ed, I want to learn some tips too. I'll buy you dinner.
Hey now, sir! You really think you're gonna steal my manager away, so...
Geoff shut Ader's snout with one hand.
My dear boy, you sure gave it all today, so why don't you go and enjoy what's left of the fair? I have a gig in the tavern later. Money, yes. Don't expect me tonight.
With that, Geoff hurriedly shooed a very confused Adder away. Our protagonist wandered back toward the increasingly empty and silent
Geoff.
hall.
You slut.
Unsure of where he was headed next. His victory had been but a brief rush against mediocrity, and now that he was alone, his mind sought the comfort of a familiar place, seething pit in his chest. No, he had no business there. Adder had spent enough nights hungry and alone to learn to eat his emotions for dinner, but still, his stomach protested, demanding to know when their next real meal would arrive. He could only walk a little farther to chase those thoughts away. No matter how resilient he was, he would eventually get tired and stagger his way back home. Fall asleep in his little corner, dream a sleepless dream, and wake up to a drunk Geoff crashing in. He'd head off to work, and Aina would get him some food. That's right, he held no doubt in his heart that his boss would come back. Why had he made such a fuss for? Aina had never missed a single day of working the whole year he'd been working for her. And anyway, she was way stronger than him. What could he do? He had no reason to say grand words or worry like he did. He never had. Sparse groups of citizens and visitors all around him still celebrated this blessed day. Dances and melodies and pastries a drifter from down yonder the steps would never be allowed to take part in. This was just another empty day in the life of Adderson, son of Gerfaz.
It's just another day. Do 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 do. It's just another day.
An abrupt lapse of lucidity made Adder turn his head away from his hooves at last. His ears perked up, and his fur stood on end as he tried to make sense of the careless trip he'd just taken. The music was deafening all around him, the crowd untraversable. He didn't know how far he'd walk or how he'd manage to make some space for himself, but it was obvious now that he had stumbled into some sort of performance. A stage, where the whole city would be looking. What a dream. But a remote voice in the back of his thoughts told him that he didn't have time to find out what kind of show could attract such a crowd. That was not where he was supposed to be. He knew his gut hadn't been lying to him when he caught sight of a small flickering light coming from a discreet tent around which the crowd seemed to be oddly absent. His eye wouldn't budge away from that curious flame shining in the dark. He sensed its offer warm and loud. Adder didn't even consider for 1 second that he may have been too hungry to think straight. He ignored all the warnings common sense would have taught him and marched straight into the tent.
Let's be real. Ignoring all the warnings that common sense have taught him is basically Adder's whole character.
Yeah. Dusk was still a ways off, but it may as well have been midnight inside. Adder combed the darkness desperately, startled by the sudden change in illumination. Sweet, frightful clarity once more. What in the name of the Hansel was I thinking? He pondered in breathless silence, as his mind started conjuring bandits, assassins, and monsters, ready to tear his cape into pieces and fashion toothpicks out of his horns for having been so reckless. But he didn't get to fret long, as his fears were interrupted by the birth of a flame in the corner of his sight. His flare grew with unmeasured force, blinding him for a moment. He struggled to regain his vision, fearing those foes that only lived in his mind. Foes he wouldn't face today either. bathing in the light of an orb that was filled with fire, shaded in ways that made no sense whatsoever, awaited a silhouette. A very recognizable silhouette.
Took you long.
Oh. Ooh, she's got glasses and a nice hat, and her tail's
Look at those
swishing.
shoulders. Look at those pauldrons.
Of course it was her.
Yeah, it's not a living.
And all of a sudden, Adder wished he'd found a bandit instead. At least he would have felt justified in the terror that rooted his feet so firmly to the ground then.
I couldn't rock anything she wears, but I want them. I want the option.
The boy remained
You know
immobile.
what? You do you.
Eye fixed on the woman in front of him, following the million glitters the ruby necklace hanging from her neck reflected all over, dragging his attention right back to the extravagant spread of finely woven silks, so carelessly tousled in her hair.
Again, incredible lack of restraint. Incredible restraint I'm demonstrating by saying nothing about the elaborate spread.
Adderson was never much of an analytical boy in his day-to-day, but he became quite the sleuth when it came to attempting to pinpoint the line of a work a dress revealed, and without revealing nearly a single thing, this one managed to have him at a complete loss. It was a pressing question he might have been too polite to ask, had the lump in his throat not taken care of that issue for him.
Don't just stand there. Take a seat.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sitting on my
I mean,
tail.
if
I got places to go, and I don't usually share tents with ladies, and...
Judging by her glare, she wasn't going to take no for an answer.
What am I saying? It'd have been mighty ugly of me to reject an invitation.
Adder did his ass and sat down on one of the many pillows laying around.
Attaboy.
You're a dead man.
Pretending to be crazy, escaping, begging for gods for mercy, breaking down and claiming that he wasn't in fact a horn eater, that this was just a mistake and he shouldn't be there. Adder's mind was bustling with ways of getting out of that situation. So, of course, whenever his mind was busy, his mouth was free to speak as it pleased.
Hi.
He spoke with a voice more akin to that of a fawn whose antlers are just beginning to sprout than that of a fully grown deer. I'm Adder, nice place. He's literally already introduced himself to her, so...
I'm Anderson, son of Griffin, the buck who farms the highest hill in my village, Ravina Olis. So, here and there, just about everywhere, folks know me as Adder, of the upper field.
That's nice.
It better be, because it's a lie, ma'am. They call me Long Neck Short Horns, or Adder Shovel Hands, or sometimes even Adder Shoe Face.
Oh, Adder Shovel Hands is my favorite Tim Burton movie.
Mocking chuckles stabbed Adder's heart. Feeling even more self-conscious than he thought he was capable of, he held onto his hooves and fixed his gaze on the ground, screaming inside as his face burned.
So it wasn't the contusion after all, huh? You're just like that.
Like
yes,
what
ma'am.
Funny.
Funny?
Always a fun day.
Me? Not one bit, ma'am. I ain't got a funny bone in my body. Doc and I ain't ever seen worse jokes than Adder scenes.
Neither do I. But here I am.
Didn't that sound like a poem just now?
Aww.
Well, darn. A poem ain't nothing but a dull song, Mr. Bard always says so. I'd hate to bore fine ladies such as yourself, so I better get...
I'm bored of seeing deer yelling obscenities in the streets, of course. But you're the only deer I've seen in my life with the guts to compliment a Barhan. Then again, everyone thinks the same about Jasif in private.
Adder couldn't help thinking that maybe Jasif thought a bit too highly about Jasif, if she used Jasif when talking about Jasif. But he made a point not to say that out loud, since the situation was already bad enough as it was.
Yep, that's me, all right. Can't keep this big snout closed.
A deep silence filled the tent. Adder cursed his luck and his good manners. He wanted to run away and hide, fearing that otherwise he'd commit a big mistake. The kind of mistake that would get him called Horn Eater for the rest of his life.
Well then, it was sure nice
Bro,
to
it's
see you
worth
again,
it.
but-
Think of all the horns you can eat.
Would you like to know your fortune?
Adder turned on his heel, desperate to find out if her offer was indeed true. There was nothing that betrayed a lie in her words nor in her eyes.
Whoa! You're one of those gazelle fortune tellers? For real?
Let's
I
just
never
say,
get tired of that mouth cap.
let's just say they looked rather different back in Adderstown.
Well, slap my head and call me silly. I guess you pegged all wrong, man. Darn right, I'd love to hear it. Oh.
She's like, no, I'm the one
lost
who's
my
going to
bag
do the
coins.
pegging.
I ain't got a single dollar on me.
Something flew into the ground right beside Adder's foot.
My bag?
You dropped it right after you crashed the first time. I meant to give it back, but since you were so bent on running through that wall...
You didn't steal from it, did you?
Steal what? It's just filled with rivets.
Aha! That means you opened it!
So much for wanting to see you again. That was all. You can go now if you want.
Punch to the gut would have hurt Adder infinitely less than her words. What am I doing? He thought to himself, biting the inside of his cheek. No mere thief would have ever returned his bag, and sad as that was, no other person had ever gone so far for him. So he sat down once more, looking at the finely yet peculiarly dressed woman in front of him, with a mix of embarrassment, naivete, and just plain fear.
I don't suppose you accept rivets as payment.
That would depend on what you're paying for.
Damn.
My fortune.
Just keep them.
The sea rested her arms over the crystal orb, leaning closer to Adder.
All right! Can you look into the ball thing and tell me how my ma and pa are doing? Did any of my little bros get married yet?
That's cute, but it's a reading glass, not a magic mirror.
Right. How about the weather? Can you give them good harvests?
Take your prayers to the temple.
Oh, darn, that won't do either. Alrighty then, how about me? What do you see in this buck's future?
Whoa!
Why would you want to know anything
Where
about
do
that?
we begin?
Life would be boring if you knew what waits around every corner. I'll read your past and justify your present.
But I already know those things.
I don't.
Adder was quite set on asking what she meant, but his brain shut down operations completely as the girl, oh so casually, decided to shuffle closer to him, a little lighter now around the shoulders without the cape weighing her down.
For example, we could talk about why you did what you did for me then, and figure out what I could do to return the favor now.
Her blue eyes spoke like an insinuating whisper. Her fingers walked over the cobblestone ground headed toward Adder's own hands, as her face got ever so close.
I gotta insist, ma'am, that you definitely got the wrong buck. But even if I ever did anything nice for you in my life, a simple thanks is more than enough payment.
Adder, you fool.
I guess you could use a reminder too.
The soothsayer made no attempt to conceal her disappointment, much like no one ever made any attempt to explain to her what coming on too strong means. With apparent tedium, she grabbed the crystal orb and put it right between her face and Adder's. This time she had no more pretensions than merely watching him.
Oh fire, tell me the secrets in the... Yada yada, stuff in Bazaktet. I don't feel like switching languages now.
Her complete lack of professionalism made Adder feel for once at ease. After all, what would he do if he was indeed in front of a Sephi, one of those heinous Baron wizards from far back in time? Cry, beg, try to escape? Wait, those are the things he'd already thought of doing. Adder was considering the subtle differences and the fears he felt when talking to a girl and imagining being burnt to a crisp by a witch. She watched him. She kept watching. And then she watched some more. Gazelle lifted her head from behind the glass as she squinted her eyes into fine lines. Whatever she was looking for, she couldn't find, but she still ducked behind the orb once more, hoping to reach some kind of conclusion. Focused with such intensity that her eyebrows could have split her forehead in two, and she wouldn't have noticed, Joseph pressed her mouth to one side, wiggled her nose, and opened her eyes so wide at him that Adder couldn't help but laugh.
Shush, it's easier with two.
She mumbled the last part to herself, but Adder was sure that she'd said eyes.
Oh, what's that? You ain't never done it with a one-eyed deer before?
Adder pressed his lips together like he wanted to make them disappear. Joseph merely rose an eyebrow. His accidental innuendo made him begin shaking from horns to hooves once more.
Screw this.
She pushed the orb away with an exasperated sigh. Before Adder knew what was going on, his face was in her hands and her face right in front of his.
I need to find out if it was you after all. Stay still.
A drumbeat in his ears. That was Adder's heartbeat as she stared at him so intently. There was a lump in his throat. He did his best not to tremble. His eye began feeling heavy, though he tried to hold her gaze. She was muttering something, words about his past, but her voice became obscured by the noise of bells, the crackling of the fire, the sound of her own eyelashes batting against each other.
It's really too sodding late to be dealing with pests like you. And yet, here we are, wasting my time and yours.
Soulless Raptor said, "My God, man, take the hint." And
yeah, right?
Omni Technomancer said, "He is profoundly incapable of taking any hints."
I'm sorry, what hints? Okay.
What's that supposed to...
Adder's complaint vanished at spear point. 2 guards had replaced a gazelle, one old and complacent and one young and eager, and inches away from stabbing his nose.
Just who do you think you are?
Who do you think I am?
Running around leaving scars.
That was just Sif's voice. But as much as he tried to find her, Adder couldn't see her. In fact, he couldn't even move at all.
What? Ugh, I won't fall for your bar and mind tricks, Gazelle. I don't care if you're Jaseed or Jasude. Only nobles are allowed to walk the royal pathway. No exceptions.
Adder felt a lump in his throat as he unwillingly looked over the railings that he was leaning against.
I don't suppose you expect me to jump off the bridge.
The younger guard opened his mouth to reply, but his partner cut in line.
Can't you see that you're scaring her, you dimwit? Take a step back!
What? But she's trespassing.
The younger guard got smacked in the head for his efforts.
Settle down, boy! You forgot to clean your ears this morning or what? She said she's Jaseed. Jaseed! This girl's far more than nobility, see? She's a queen. The queen of the desert, Rose, no less.
Yes,
now
queen.
That's what I call a fancy time.
Call it whatever you please. It won't change the fact I am the one and only Jasif, and you are a dear with good taste. You must have heard my name in 100 whispers. So, just imagine how terribly worried Miss Rochelle will be if her favorite girl doesn't make it home before dawn.
Liar! There's no way the Desert Rose would have someone like you! Your kin shouldn't even be outside after curfew!
My kin? You mean gazelles who could buy your whole street?
So much for the open-minded youth. Forgive this fool, your majesty. He's so uptight I think he sat on his spear. I'm sure you know his kin. A fawn like him wouldn't know royalty if it spat in his face. He's got a point, though. Any gazelle could sneak up here and say she's a queen because she's the daughter of a goat with a bald spot on her head. You understand, right? We can't just take your word for it. Nothing personal, of course, it's just common sense. Here's a thought. Why don't you sway us with a little dance? I'm sure that Jasif would do anything for her subjects.
What are you saying, you numbskull? We're on duty, and she's not even a... three's sake! We should just drag her to the dungeon and end this nonsense!
Yeah, spare me the lecture, kid. Hey, do one of those bar and dance things. That'll shut him right up. You know, the one with the fire and the bells and the...
The older guard cupped his chest and pretended to dance as he cackled, much to the revulsion of everyone involved. Adder could feel the tip of his tongue scraping against his teeth, far smaller and more well-aligned than he ever remembered them being. His patience was growing worryingly thin.
I could dance for you, if you don't mind having an early cremation.
Huh? Was that a threat just now?
Not at all. I'm just pointing out that I'm not dressed for the occasion. It would be a pity if your face was to catch fire and your skin burst into flames, turning your bones to charcoal inside your blazing corpse while your ashes moldered up here. Just because I didn't have a fireproof shirt.
Right. Well, it doesn't look like you have any other way to prove your words, Your Majesty.
I suppose I don't, but I bet my good friend Illigrab could find a way to prove them for me.
And walk you all the way across the city on the off chance we find that fidget arse of a tree sitting at his desk? We don't get paid that much, little lady.
Ooh.
Oh.
Victoria smiled across Adder's face. An opening at last.
Ah, I understand now. A discount isn't even remotely enough to cover the entrance cost of the Desert Rose on a poor, hard-working guard's salary. And that's not even adding the price of my performances.
The old guard's eyes shot open as he felt a few coins slipping into his hand.
Don't worry. I'm sure there's some places down the street that are better suited to your taste.
He remained transfixed by the money a moment longer until something seemed to click in his head all of a sudden.
Who do you take me for, scamp? We are honor-bound city guards. We won't get buffed by the likes of you.
Ugh, what? Come on. This was more than enough last time. Why isn't it working now?
Guards didn't react to that sentence at all. It was like they hadn't heard her when Jasif's voice sounded loud and clear in Adder's ears. That thought passed as soon as it came. A quick, anxious look in the old guard was directing at his partner. The quick, anxious looks the old guard was directing at his partner became the new focus of Adder's attention. The moment they locked eyes, the answer he'd been looking for became evident.
Of course. I should have noticed sooner. He's a new recruit, isn't he? Look at him. So eager and uptight. So focused on proving his worth to the captain. So predictable. You couldn't possibly trust someone like him with a bribe. He's too different from your old partner. But you couldn't trust that one either, could you? No, he knew too much. And he wasn't half as jaded as you are. His heart wasn't really in it. Aha, I see. You had a feeling he would end up going after you. So, you sold him out first. That's why he's here.
How did you?
What? So she's telling the truth? You take bribes?
No, well, maybe if it's enough. I mean, come on. It's just a goddamned bridge. What's the matter if we let rich people in at this point? They're no different from nobles. But I swear, I've never gotten money from this. No, I've never even seen this. Gazelle?
Guard's face contorted into a deeply wrinkled scowl. He looked beyond confused, lost. The song was reaching its final notes.
Aw, looks like your friend has a bad case of guilty conscience. That's okay. I'm no one to judge. Just let me go this time. I promise I'll be a good girl and head straight home. You won't even know I've been here.
Adder started to walk, a little spring in his step as something he barely recognized as his tail wagged behind him. He felt above the moon, completely drunk from this power trip, but he was far from safe still. A strong hand clasped Adder's wrist tightly. This told him all he needed to know, that his body wasn't his body and this mind wasn't his mind.
But who else could it have been? You are the Jasif, aren't you? You really could buy this whole street if you wanted. It was you! It was you all along! What did you do to me?
I only gave you money.
You gave me cursed money! No! You cast a spell on me!
What in the world are you rambling about now? You sound like a madman!
Yeah, that's right. I have gone mad. It's not my fault. I'm not really a crook. She's a Sephi. She must have charmed me to do all those bad things. We're on to you, witch! Confess!
Every last fiber of her body was screaming at her to run. Jasif knew each and every corner of the royal pathway. She could have just hidden somewhere or outran two guards wearing heavy armor. That was the correct option. It was obvious to her. But that was not the choice she made. She pulled close to him and moved a smirk toward his ear instead.
I wouldn't waste any magic on you.
Oh, dippity dang!
There wasn't any trace of fear in Jasif's mind as the guard grabbed her collar and pushed her against the railing. Not a speckle of resignation. It wasn't bravery either. There was nothing but anticipation. Adder didn't know the name of the eerie warmth that was creeping onto her chest as he watched the tip of her spear turn toward him in slow motion. He never felt anything quite so peaceful and thrilling before. But to her, this lost battle...
Is she trying to commit suicide by a cop?
That's what it sounds like.
Huh.
Well.
But to her, this lost battle seemed to be worth as much as a victory. After all, she had been playing with fire for her whole life. Getting burnt was an eventuality she had been ready to accept for years. She was tired of making choices. Fractions of a second before the end of her life could be sentenced, a scream shook the night.
Get your mitts off her, you creep!
Everyone turned around to look at the idiot yelling all the way down on the ground.
You think you can just bother her last because she looks good enough for second helpings and then dessert? Well, you can't, alright?
Chubby little adder.
That's
Hey, Rick.
Spanish stew, and you'd make your mom cry if they knew. Let her go!
What?
Quick question. Don't mean to just spring this on you completely out of the blue or anything, but would you be up for Maxi joining the call?
Sure.
Whoa!
Okay. Okay.
Let's see.
Bring him in!
Invite.
Like 6
Oh my
a.m. in Spain?
God, how many servers am I in?
I don't know.
That's what Stoker's been doing about her back.
Yes, it is 6:45 a.m. Yes.
Oh Lord.
for our esteemed Maxi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello?
Whoa, Maxi!
Hi, Maxi.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
We are just now at the part where, well, you can see on the screen. We're just now at the flashback.
Yeah, you just met Xavier there. My gosh.
How you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah, I just woke up. It's 6:45 a.m. So
Morning.
rare chance to see you all. And yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the creator of the Hayseed Knight in the call.
Yeah, y'all. Everybody say hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
please say hi to Maxi.
Maxi!
Also, everybody go buy the Hayseed Knight. It's good.
Yeah.
Yes, give me money.
How many more times do I have to buy the game?
As many as it takes.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
How many Steam accounts can you create?
I don't want to answer that question.
So like, how much thirst have I missed?
How much thirst have you missed? Like every other thing that I've said.
Because like I need to know, because I'm going to, I just woke up. I'm going to go back and like delightfully watch the stream. I'm going to be very excited and be like, oh my, okay.
Listen. I can't help the way I am.
You were born this way, baby.
I was.
Born with a gift these days.
But I've actually been surprisingly restrained for the most part.
He's been saying that he's been restrained.
Yes, I've been saying I've been restrained.
Well, I'm looking forward to you all reaching chapter 3 because I know you're going to be screaming at me. So that's great.
I'm looking forward to it too now.
Yeah. Ader had most certainly gone crazy.
What the? Oh, get
That's also a good summary of the entire story.
City business. It's got nothing to do with you.
City business, my ass! You're holding a gal up against the wall. I ain't got nothing to do with it, but it's still got everything to do with me. If it's so official, I'm gonna scream till the whole city wakes up and sees this.
No, you're not. Do something.
No. Shut up.
That is a great comeback. No! No, you're not!
Would you want to throw my spear at some poor horn-eater now? Who are you calling a horn-eater? Just hold up there.
I love the outraged tone he's got delivering these lines.
Adder, the pudgy version of Adder, that is, wasn't concerned with matters such as his complete lack of grace, agility, or strength. Moved by his sense of justice, he began climbing the column that led to the royal pathway. Of course, he never made it.
Hey! Are you still alive? Horn Eater!
He still got the Horn Eater.
Oh, poor kid. We can't just leave him to die all on his own. Guess he'll be jumping off the bridge yet, witch.
Puzzling as the scene was, Jasif realized that she didn't have another second to lose. With the guard's hand still firmly wrapped around her collar and pushing her back, Jasif threw all her weight on one leg, using her tail as leverage to complete a practice spin that ended with her knee sinking deep between the deer's legs. He immediately dropped to the ground, but it wasn't quite enough to knock him out.
You little...
That's enough. Let's go.
But she kicked me.
Kick me in the dick!
You had it coming.
Giselle is what she's not.
He
But I
had
can
it
tell just
coming.
fine what you are.
All
I'm
along.
not leaving you another second with her. Get that old ass back to the barracks, or I'm telling Illigrab what you just did.
It was the older
Okay,
guard's
might
turn to
be
go
me,
pale.
but-
He lowered his helmet and began limping in the other direction. The younger guard, however, stood in front of her a moment longer.
You. Go home and don't let me catch you up here again.
Jasif only allowed herself to breathe easy again once both guards had disappeared from sight. Pride filled her lungs faster than air.
Good riddance.
She wasn't quite out of the woods yet, but she decided to savor this victory, a moment of peace, which Jasif took to look over the railings one last time. Her wannabe savior now lay unconscious on the ground after hitting his head during the fall. And in spite of
that could also be a good summary for the overall plot.
and in spite of how miserable the scene was, Adder could feel a smile forming on her face. He finally understood that, crazy or not, he was seeing what she was seeing, the way that she saw it.
Did I scare him good?
Huh? You're awake? How in the name of Oblivion can you be conscious after a fall like that? He must be at least 5 stories high. What are you even trying to... No. That doesn't matter now. Are you hurt? Should I call a doctor?
Are you all right, ma'am?
No. No, I'm not hurt. So, yes, that was nothing. I'm fine.
I love the animation here.
Yes, I totally
That's all
agree.
this buck needs to feel fit as a fiddle.
What? No, I'm rather certain that's not how bodies work.
What they do.
Oh, no, man.
Listen, who made you a doctor of adderology?
I'm someone
Adderology.
To get some like the actual source of these backgrounds. These images are so good.
Yeah, I love them.
This one.
Drunk is what you must be.
This one was a picture I took from a very high place in a medieval town.
No way.
Nice.
Yeah.
I sure hope not. Would be a real shame if some barrel fever ruined the memory of your pretty face.
It wouldn't make much of a difference either way.
What was that, ma'am?
Cad! You are a cad! Does this look like a good time to be flirting to you?
Destiny yelled
Sure,
down
why
through the
not?
columns, nearly sending Jasif's heart straight out of her chest.
Don't know about flirting, but it sure looks like a good time to get walking.
Then get up and walk! I can't just leave you to your fate now!
No, you ain't. You ain't leaving no one, ma'am. Slum dwellers like me come a door a dozen. I'll just play dead for a while and see if I can spend the night in the morgue.
Forgot about that.
More patrols are surely drawing closer by the minute, demanding she make a choice pronto.
This doesn't end here, understood? I will make it up to you somehow, so don't you dare die until then. Promise you won't forget it.
Whoa, wait, hold up. Who am I supposed to look for? I didn't even catch your...
Neither Adder understood why she chose to run then, but she ran. She ran before that pitiful buck laying on the ground could finish voicing his request, pretending she hadn't heard him. But the answer she didn't give to the question he couldn't ask lingered a little longer in the space between old hopes and delusions. A sight that Adder found too engrossing to realize he was being left behind. Now, the gazelle was far out of his reach, and with every step, he felt her slipping away from his grasp a little further. He tried to keep up, but his legs wouldn't respond if it wasn't to her command. He tried to breathe, but he wasn't the master of his own lungs. His sight went dark, and his ears turned deaf. A violent torrent of foreign thoughts clobbering his brain as his mind dissolved back into the nether. As suddenly as he left,
we've all been there.
He found himself, one-eyed, famished, and back in the tent. Indeed, this had to be him. The same gazelle was still breathing over his snout, blue eyes fixed on him with the intensity of a burning sun. But who cares about having the greatest beauty they've seen in their life all over their body? Not Adder anymore, no! A million questions filled his mind. Was that the real life? Was it just fantasy? Were there any more of his memory slipping through the many cracks in his fogged skull? Or had starvation finally started to take a toll upon his very brain? As was usually the case, however, his lips refused to wait for a finished script. They raced past Adder's mind, offering an answer to the only question he had never even asked.
Sam?
Oh, hey, Dis.
Hello.
There's Dis. Hi, Dis.
Hello,
This
we
word.
have guests tonight.
We do have a Maxi.
Yep. This word, so short and unassuming, seemed to awaken something in a girl that Adder was almost too dazed to recognize. He couldn't tell yet why her ears perked up, or why his gaze was immediately drawn to her horns, and the beautiful mass of red locks she was desperately pulling behind them.
I mean, I can tell you why, Adder.
He needs a moment, Stoker. Okay? You gotta rush him, okay?
Disconcert.
All right, fine, I'll give him time.
Disconcert washed away all conceit from her expression. It took away all the mesmerizing superiority from her eyes. Yes, she looked honestly and utterly tiny for a moment. Scared.
Where did you hear that?
Where did I... Oh! Oh! Ma'am, you're okay! You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I heard you say it just now. But not now. It was a long time ago. I was under Hirup's statue. I mean, you were, but I was you and not me because I was trying to save you, but I fell on my face and those guards laughed at me and... it's just how the hell did I forget any of this? Why can't I remember?
You, poetry in motion here.
Anger hit her like a wave as shock disappeared.
Why didn't you say so? Get away from me!
Oh.
The fire in the orb began flickering erratically, casting disturbing shadows all over the tent.
Whoa, what's going on? What in the name of Atsa did I do now? Was I supposed to say something? Thank you. That's the magic word?
Do you seriously expect me to believe that you...
Hold on. Sip? It was Sip, wasn't it? Oh crap, I just went and cussed a lady out in Gazelle speak, didn't I?
She looked at him with skepticism, her eyes squinted with barely concealed anger. She was clearly sizing him up.
No. You really don't have a clue of what you just did, do you?
Ma'am, if I ever got a clue in my life, it wasn't today. I'm just glad you're alright and that guard is in the dungeon or dead or something.
Her expression relaxed just a little as she considered Adder's words. Our poor boy had more than enough trying to get some air into his lungs.
Then you're telling me that you're a natural gaze reader? Do you even understand what this means?
Do I have to say yes or no to get out of here alive?
I love that tongue.
A small chuckle erased all the tension from her face. Adder felt even more confused upon seeing this.
I was trying to read your gaze, but you read mine instead. It's called gaze because we invented it. So, it's true what they say about yellow deer. You must have Barhan blood.
Okay, I just want to put this into record. I hate that line so much. It was first to be rewritten in the list, but I didn't have time to do it.
Ah, well. Trust me, I understand. There's always something that you don't like that manages that just stays through.
It's from 2017 where I thought I was being smart. Okay.
Get it? It's Gazelle, huh? That's how the
word came about in their language.
Now the gazelles invented the gazes. Okay, they invented queer people. That's all they did. All right.
Adder would have normally disputed the last affirmation. Roe deer took pride in being real deer, no gazelle blood at all. Nope, not 100% deer with those that don't have horns. But this was clearly not the moment nor the company to say that.
In Cyrnar, please.
You read my mind.
Say what? I think I'm the funny one here, Missy.
Gazelle seemed way too amused with this development.
No, it makes so much sense. I was wondering why you spent so much time looking at my face.
He was looking at her face?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I dispute that.
This is also a line from 2017 that was in the list to be written.
Hear me out. I'm sure you've always been really good at getting people's feelings. But not smart enough to actually understand them. You're like some kind of savant hick. That's hilarious.
Wrinkle formed over Adder's snout. That was quite enough.
My name is Adder, not Hick, Miss Sepp. Now why'd you go hiding such a cute little name, I wonder?
Her face went back to being a little more than a pretension of grandeur. But she held the fire close to her. She didn't look at all different from a child hugging her blanket, soothed by the rhythm of the belt she wore.
It's just a stupid nickname someone gave me. I hadn't heard it in years. They call me Deceive now.
Deceive. As that disgusting Guardwell said, that was no average name, and much less for a Barhan.
Ain't that something like Queen in Gazelle speak?
Bazaktet. And yes, that's a valid translation. Do you have any qualms about it?
Adder did not have any qualms per se, nor any remote idea what that word meant to begin with, but he certainly had opinions on her supposed royalty.
My queen!
No.
Oh, this beautiful
That's
dumb
cool,
boy.
Yasif. Did I say that right? I mean, if you need people calling you Queen to be happy.
I don't need to be called anything to...
Adder didn't mean anything with that, but he'd somehow managed to say something rude all the same. She didn't finish the sentence, deciding instead to just look away.
Are you alright?
She turned her face sharply towards his. There was something different in the way she was looking at him.
Adder, right?
That's me.
He took a hand to his heart and bowed his head as an instinctive greeting, accidentally clashing his horns against hers. He was surprised to find out that, somehow, that was a lot less gross than he thought it'd be. I didn't know how to feel about this appreciation.
He's getting into it.
Want to know your future? Then listen closely.
She put her mouth right next to his ear and whispered,
You're coming with me tonight.
Where?
Kid,
You really are.
don't ask questions. Look at the way she's looking at you.
My room is on the first floor, but climbing there should be easier than climbing the bridge at the very least.
Right, first floor.
Climb? Room?
It took me a second. I'm like, why would he have to climb up to the first floor? And I'm like, right, European thing. Ground floor, then first floor.
Right, yeah.
Also, I like how they got cut into.
Actually, it's I'm in Spanish. I have no idea what any of these words mean.
Oh.
So it's a simple explanation. Like in Spain, first floor means literally the like you go from the ground to the first floor. Duh. But I understand that your your ground plans or whatever that makes so much sense in America. What?
our backwards of American way of counting floors.
Don't worry.
Without previous warning, the fire in the orb extinguished, leaving the room in total darkness. Adder didn't even have time to feel alarmed. He felt her hand on the back of his head, and next he knew her lips were over his. His mind shut up completely.
See you later.
He couldn't even stop to consider how he felt about that before the kiss was over. With his mind still in a daze, he got up and turned around to leave. For a few moments, he stood frozen outside the tent, merely appreciating the cool dust breeze on his fur. By the time his thoughts began making any sense, he was already running home at full speed, crying disconsolately at the realization that he was, in fact, a horn eater. Dun dun dun!
Roll credits. Roll credits.
So worth it. So worth it.
Let's take a break here. I want to review what you've written so far.
What, you don't trust my writing skills?
No, obviously.
Feels good to be loved.
It really does.
So, Adder was a gaze reader, just like me.
Yes.
And he really was intercepted in the end, which explains a few things.
A few.
If Adder and Geoff had had an unlikely yet alluring, brief, intense romantic involvement, how would it have been called? Dieter? Adeth?
Pandering.
And I guess the only question I've got left is this going anywhere at all?
Huh? What do you mean? You've learned a lot about your beloved knight already, haven't you?
Yeah, sure. Don't take me wrong. I like your take on the story so far. I just can't figure out how any of this leads to him becoming a knight, much less the knight.
Patient little gashgab. Nashgab. Nashgab. All shall be revealed.
Like your major crush on Seth?
What?
You can put all the words you want in Adder's mouth. I know an obsession when I see one.
Go get your eyes checked then.
I'm gonna go back and count how many times you've mentioned her butt.
No, I just. That's it. You're not hearing another word about her.
What? Boo! This is a biased recount. I'm calling Radish Stew on this.
Never claim to be objective, you tiny insurgent. It's my story, and I'll share it however I see fit.
Unbelievable! You are silencing the very truth you champion! Whatever shall become of Adder's story if you bereave us of the booty?
Yeah! You tell him, kid!
There are more characters in this story, you know.
You and your fan fiction.
Okay, I'll take that as yes!
Bonk, bonk, bonk.
The coconut.
Bonk.
You know, looking back on it, there is someone that I should have loved more. Honestly, she was a bit rough around the edges, and she wasn't always the easiest kid to be around, but the reward for persevering by her side was the unwavering loyalty of an iron-hearted friend.
Sounds like a nice girl.
Oh no, she was horrible, and I hate her.
What?
Chapter 2.
Oh my gosh.
Good.
Chapter 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yay!
Yay.
So far.
It's now midnight, and this is usually where we stop.
Well,
I love the way it ended.
Maxi, do you mind if I ask one question? Why?
Absolutely.
Why is Hologram a plant?
Oh yeah, Jonas was trying to figure that out.
Wait. Okay, wait. Rick, please, right click.
What?
Right click.
Yes. Get in the encyclopedia right there in the middle. Yes.
Oh.
Wow!
Oh.
Okay, now click on Illigrab.
Illigrab.
Why is it broken? Ah! Okay, sorry. For some reason, streaming programs break the encyclopedia. I don't know what's wrong, but when it's streamed, it's broken.
Weird.
It only happens in OBS and stuff like that. But regardless, if you were playing, this will look good. Here, you can read all about the lore, all about the characters. You can get all the details you will get. Illigrab is a Makedeer, which is, the Makedar, which are the plant people. Illigrab is descended from them. So basically, they reproduce via fruits, and if a deer eats a fruit, they get pregnant. And they have not pregnant, they just basically they basically poop a little tree, like a little root.
Is this based on some? Is this based on some other folklore, or did you come up with this entirely yourself?
Just came up with it. I was
I
like,
love that.
Nice.
And you can click on the character portraits to get a full picture too.
Whoa!
And yeah, so
magnificent.
This UI is phenomenal.
Yeah. It's much better when it's not broken.
Well, isn't everything?
There's a tree person first, but he has ear. Then I knows the antlers. Wow.
Yeah, he's a deer tree person, a trurson.
I love all the side art. Oh, this looks so good.
I don't know if anyone's made you aware of this yet, Maxi, but there is another issue with the launcher.
What happens?
Rick, didn't you have to go to the EXE to get it to launch?
Yeah, I had to open up the file because it keeps trying to go to the root directory, but there's an extra folder in there.
Oh, that's so weird. Like it shouldn't.
Yeah, there's
be
like
that.
a V1. There's like a V1.6 folder now, and when you press play on Steam, it's not looking at that folder.
I think I know what happened. 1 second. Let's see. Give me 1 second, because I may have been super hyper tired yesterday, and just rushed through the final. Yes, I know exactly what happened. Fuck. Yes, okay. Thank you so much for telling me. I know exactly what happened. I'm going to fix it right now. Fuck me.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent.
I am very glad that we were able to help with that.
Excellent. Yes, I'm glad too.
Right on.
Thank you. Thank you for saving the day. I would have never found out.
Yes, an honor having
answer
you,
says
by the way.
bug fixing live on stream.
Yeah. I try
Isn't that
not to
always
do
the
my
way?
bug fixing.
Ricky?
Maxi, you made Hayseed Knight in Ren'Py, correct?
Yep. That's correct.
Have you ever looked into using any other engine
For the Hayseed Knight itself?
for any game development?
I mean, I have looked into, I have looked into Unity. I have used RPG Maker before. I have tried Construct. I have coded games in C# XNA 4.0 framework. So I use like when I started the Hayseed Knight in 2017. I had written a story, which was not this one, but it was tangentially close. When I was a Hayseed Knight, just very old. And I was like, okay, I just messed up my wrist, so I have to quit comics. I have literally just lost my job because I've messed up my body. I need a new career. I'm going to make a video game, but I suck at coding. What can I do? So I decided to make a visual novel because that was what my budget could afford and what I was decent enough at coding that I could do. And that's a Hayseed Knight. I was like, I want to make cartoons, but I don't have the money to do it. So that's why it is the way it is.
Okay. I ask because I'm a game developer myself, and I work in Unity usually, and I've been recently working on a visual novel engine in Unity, with the idea being that you can write a bunch of stories and do visual novel stuff without any coding.
I personally am a huge fan of Ren'Py because it's so flexible. Though the second you try to not make a visual novel the most basic way, it will scream at you every step of the way. But it will let you do whatever you want. It will just scream at you every step of the way.
Right. Right, that's why I want to do this Unity thing. That way you can put a visual novel on top of, like, different types of gameplay.
Yes, and it will let you export it to so many consoles and stuff. Unity is fantastic for that.
Right.
What I like about this one is it's free, completely, absolutely free. Like, you're free like the wind. You can do whatever you want with it. You are not held to any licenses.
I do like free things.
Yes, I do like free things. I quite enjoy them, in fact.
Speaking of free, the demo is free and it's available on itch and Steam.
Yes,
That's right.
And right now, I'm.
But wait, there's more.
Yes. Oh shit! My light just went out. Holy fuck! That's scary.
Uh-oh.
This is why you have to buy a UPS for your electronics.
Yes, this is very true.
Definitely, yeah. I can tell you a story. Anywho, it's been an absolute pleasure having you guys here.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, we should definitely do this again someday. Although I know that time zones make that a little tricky for you.
Yeah.
It's 7 a.m. right now. You know what? Who needs sleep?
Yeah, you know what? The only time I ever see 7 a.m. is when I'm still up, not when I've just gotten up.
Yeah.
2 a.m. where I'm at. Ooh, boy.
Stoker turns to dust at 7 a.m.
It's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you to our special guests for joining us. And we hope to see you all again soon when we start on Hayseed Knight Chapter 2.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to go back now and see the Twitch stream before I join.
Sounds excellent to me.
No problem.
You have a good day. Everybody else, have a good night.
Good night.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Have a good one.